Get ready to celebrate Rare's 40th anniversary, because our friends over at Retrobit Publishing just announced that they're going to be bringing out brand new limited edition collector's sets for both RC Pro-Am 2 on the Nintendo Entertainment System, as well as the Game Boy version of Battletoads Double Dragon. Now, we've already talked about that Battletoads Double Dragon game a bunch of times in the past, but we so rarely have a chance to talk about RC Pro-Am 2, one of my favorite 8-bit games of all time. This upcoming release will not only include the physical cartridge, full color instruction manual, and a nice hardcover magnet box, but it will also include a set of holographic stickers. Now I may love the game, but what about the critics? To answer that question, I decided to flip through the pages of Electronic Gaming Monthly, GamePro, Nintendo Power, and more classic magazines to see what they said about RC Pro-Am 2 when it first came out. Get ready to stab it and steer, because it's time for another speedy episode of Retrobit Review Crew. If you were a fan of racing games and you had a Nintendo Entertainment System in the late 1980s, then you probably owned Rad Racer. However, if you owned a second racing game, then chances are good that it was RC Pro-Am. While certainly not as pretty as the competition, Rare's remote-controlled racer was fast and it offered a ton of content. The same is true for the sequel, but you may not know that because it came out in 1992, at a time when most gamers had fully embraced the 16-bit generation. As a result, RC Pro-Am 2 is something of an overlooked gem. Rare created one of the fastest, most exciting, and action-packed games on the NES. And I'm not just talking about racing. This is a sequel that not only pushes the hardware as far as it can possibly go, but it does all that while supporting up to 4 players at the same time. Look, I've been a champion for this game for as long as I can remember, but what did the critics say? When it comes to Electronic Gaming Monthly, everybody agreed with me. RC Pro-Am 2 is the best racing game on the NES. In fact, Sushi X just straight up says that in his glowing review. This is how an NES game should be programmed. The control is right on the money, and the numerous power-up options really add variety to the gameplay. The graphics are delightfully colorful, and the challenge is consistently better as you race along. RC Pro-Am 2 is the best racing game for the NES. Steve agreed, but admits to initially being skeptical. Racing games are my favorite, and after hearing of a new NES cart, I wasn't excited. After all, how could the 8-bit deliver the excitement that you get from playing a good Genesis racer? But I was wrong. This is a must-have cart for anybody who still uses the NES, as the gameplay, graphics, and car options are outstanding. With an average score of 8 out of 10, RC Pro-Am 2 was EGM's best reviewed racing game on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, you want to know what makes EGM's score even more impressive? Well, that 8 out of 10 is actually the second lowest score that I could find of any magazine published in 1993. The lowest comes from Nintendo Power, who gave it a solid 3.8 out of 5. They liked being able to choose the items you want to boost the power of your vehicle, saying that it adds an element of strategy to the game. However, they complained that some of the enemy vehicles that appear, like the airplanes that drop bombs, give you very little time to adjust and dodge. The result is that you can lose a race without doing anything wrong. As we climb back up the scale, we see Nintendo Magazine System gush over the 4-player action and the high-speed thrills of RC Pro-Am 2, giving the game a score of 87%. That's the same score that you saw over at Game Players, who decided to talk more about the wealth of content. There are 24 different tracks in RC Pro-Am, as well as 3 types of courses, with bonus stages too. As you race, you can pick up useful items and money that you can use to soup up your vehicle. You also get cold hard cash at the end of each race, although how much you earn depends on how well you perform. Give RC Pro-Am 2 the checkered flag. You'll want to keep playing it over and over again. Now, if you're looking for the highest score, then look no further than GamePro, who went with a perfect 5 out of 5. However, as is so often the case with GamePro, just because it earned the highest score possible, they were definitely not afraid to criticize its outdated presentation. Keep your eye on the road and your ears plugged. The 8-bit graphics and sound do their respective jobs, but they won't compel you to buy this cart. Your cars are just recognizable, and the tracks are no tourist attractions. But you're here to race, not sightsee, and the game's quick moving animation is top notch. Pro-Am sounds? Well, they exist. RC Pro-Am 2 is a slick sequel that outraces the original, so hit the road, Jack. Every red-blooded American feels the need for 4-wheel speed sometimes, even if it's only in little bursts. This is, without a question, one of my favorite NES games of all time, and Rare absolutely pushes the system to its limits. Look, I get it, the critics are right, the graphics aren't very impressive, and the sound kinda sucks. But there's a ton of content here, and this is the type of racer that actually holds up remarkably well. I love that Retrobit and Rare are going to be giving this overlooked gem a second life, and I suggest you check out the pre-order campaign if you're into that type of thing.
Play RC Pro-Am. Play with power. Pull up to the start. Taste the challenge. The power of radio control. If you can't take it, you'll eat dust. Radio controlled Pro-Am only from Nintendo. Now you're playing with power.
Hey, thanks for watching me break down these classic reviews. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new episodes just like this every time classic games get added to modern consoles. Or even when classic games get re-released on classic systems, like with this Retrobit release. We have a whole playlist with hundreds of reviews just like this. Now, here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite 8-bit racing game? Look, RC Pro-Am 2 is hard to top, but I get it if you prefer Rad Racer, or Excite Bike, or even Super Off-Road. They're all good picks. And hey, don't forget about Outrun over on the Master System. There really are a lot of great 8-bit racing games to choose from. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back later this week with a review of Whisker Squadron Survivor. While I wait for that, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.